when you're fishing for suspended panfish that are busting up on bait fish anywhere from the surface to halfway down to the bottom, a really good presentation to use is a vertical jigging spoon. And that's what I'm holding up in my hand. As you can see, if I turn it sideways, it's not really cupped like a casting spoon because it's not designed to be cast and retrieved. So this spoon is designed to do one thing when it hits the water, and that is drop down to the bottom. As it's dropping, it'll shift and turn and twist and roll over itself. So it actually produces the action of an injured bait fish. I think that's why they call it the crippled herring. This particular one is 3/4 ounce weight, and we were doing a little bit of casting, but most of the time the fish were hitting it as it was fluttering back to the boat. So the best presentation for this is you cast it out, unless you're fishing vertically right on top of the fish. In our case, we had wind, we had current, so it was very hard to stay on top of the lure. We're casting it out, letting it sink, and as it's sinking, giving it a couple of twitches, retrieving it slowly, a couple of twitches. Because of that, it was producing a really nice action, just like a live bait fish. The other lure that worked really well was just an inline spinner, and that's what I'm holding up here. This is a Vibrex number 2. Now, the thing with the Vibrex spinner, the reason they call it a Vibrex, it's got a nice blade that rotates around the body of the spinner, but also you can see that it's got this bell-shaped body, and inside that there's like a gear. So what happens when the water goes through this bell, that gear rotates, spins around, and the bell hits it from side to side. So it does produce a lot of vibration and action. And what I did today, because we're in that strong current, is add a couple of split shot just to get that spinner to go down, because it is a very light lure. Now when you get the Vibrex spinner in a package, like I'm holding up here, you can see that the spinner is rigged with a treble hook, but it also comes with a single hook, and that hook is called a Siwash hook. And if I hold it up, you can see that the eye is open. The reason that eye is open is so that you can very easily remove the treble hook if you want and put that single hook on there and then pinch it close with your pliers. If you're fishing for larger game fish, you could use a spinner for catching large steelhead or salmon even, or larger trout. You might be better off using a single hook because those fish have big mouths and they fight really tough. But if you're fishing for fish like panfish with smaller mouths that do a lot of scrapping and head shaking, you're probably better off to keep the treble on there. Now, the crippled herring, the spoons that we were using, come in different sizes, and you should really use the size of spoon that resembles the bait fish that the fish are feeding on. So I'm going to hold 2 out here. Okay, so you can see the 2 different sizes here. One has a green back with a very prominent eye. One has a blue and black back. This particular one here is 1/4 ounce. This one here is 1 ounce. So depending on what the fish are feeding on, even though these sink very quickly, if you cast and retrieve them, if the fish are feeding into the surface, you can actually keep these spoons very close to the surface. So matching the hatch, even for panfish, when they're feeding on open water bait fish, is very important. And of course, getting right to where the fish are. Now, we're using pretty light gear with light line, and these guys are putting up a pretty good fight. I'm using one of the new R-type spinning rods and reels, and you can see how clear the water is. And you can see the spinner that's in this fish's mouth. Mike Atkins was telling me yesterday when I was asking him about the white bass, what are some of his favorite lures, and he said, you know what, Italo, a small spinner works really well for them. Clay's using a 1/2 ounce Lure Jensen crippled herring spoon, and I have a number 2 Vibrex on. You can see it right here. And what I've done is, about 1 foot up the line, I've got 2 larger size split shot. That's just to get it to sink down because there's such a current here, and we are fishing the main Detroit River. Isn't that a pretty fish? Look at how silver he is. And we've gotten a lot bigger one, so I'm releasing that one. There it goes.
Fisher girl!
Now, you probably know, if you love to fish, that knots are really important, whether you're using artificial lures or whether you're using a single hook with bait. So what I'm going to do here is demonstrate several knots for you, but the first one I'd like to demonstrate is called a palomar knot. And it probably comes from the person that invented the knot in the first place. So what I'm holding up in my hand here, this is called Dacron line. It's a braid, and it's used for backing for fishing. And what I'm going to do is, I'm using a yellow so everybody can see it, especially at home. I'm going to double it over so that I get a loop. I've got a big old hook here to do my demonstration. I'm going to put the loop through the eye of the hook, so you can see it's put through, very simple. Now I'm going to make a 1/2 hitch. Most people know to do a half hitch. That's what you use when you do your shoelaces up. When you tie a bow, it's a half hitch. To finish the knot, all I'm going to do is take the hook and put it through the loop that I created. And then I tighten the loop, and that is a palomar knot. Very strong knot. Was that easy to tie or what? Easy.